Orange Zone, sponsored by Apex Entertainment.
Welcome back to another episode of the Orange Zone podcast. This week, I'm Ashley Wenskoski. Sam is on vacation, and I am joined by, I don't want to say former producer because I don't think that time frame has left us entirely, but you guys remember Rachel Culver. She has been on the podcast for a long time, producing and speaking on the mic, and it is the two of us today. Hi, Rachel. How's it going?
I don't think it's ever been the two of us, which is a fun new experience. I've sat here with Sam before, but this is exciting. I will say I'm a little uncomfortable being at the table. I miss my seat back behind the wall a little bit, but I'm excited to talk. Let's talk some SU sports.
Let's talk some Syracuse sports. So one of the most sports dead weeks of the year altogether. It's like the MLB All-Star break, not a whole ton going on, but somehow in the world of Syracuse sports, there is still some news. Football season is fast approaching. Football camp is fast approaching, if you can even believe it. So Syracuse football is headed to the ACC Kickoff next week. SU will be featured on Wednesday, July 23rd. So if you're a big SU fan, make sure you are watching on the ACC network. They're going to have full coverage. Like I said, SU's day is Wednesday. But the players that Fran Brown is bringing with him to this event have switched. We got word on Monday that the players that were originally announced by the ACC, by the conference, are no longer attending. And we have some new people going, and we have some insight into why that happened. So SU is now bringing quarterback Ricky Collins, defensive back Barry Buxton III, tight end Dan Villari, and punter Jack Stonehouse. They will join Fran in speaking to the media on Wednesday. The originally announced players that were supposed to be there was Collins. He is still attending, as previously announced. And then it was Deon Wilson Jr., Deon Tank Wilson, Deuce Chestnut, and Derek McDonald. So some of those defensive leaders, Chestnut, McDonald, and Tank will not be there. Now it's these new three. Rachel, just give me your initial thoughts when you heard about this.
Yeah, I think I appreciate, I think this new group is a little bit more widespread across the team, right?
Yeah.
You're seeing a little bit more of the versatility as opposed to a lot of the defensive positions like you talked about. I will say I had the chance to meet Tank just a couple weeks ago at a barbecue that happened in Syracuse, and he's such a pleasure.
A delight.
I actually did a live hit with him. He was running the barbecue, cooking up hot dogs and hamburgers, and he was multitasking, being on camera and cooking at a picnic, and just gave a great interview. So
we love that little multitask from Tank.
So I feel like that will be missed a little bit, but we talked about it briefly before we hopped on the recording here that Dan Villari is kind of the best representation of Syracuse football that you could possibly think of. So I'm excited for that.
Yes, I think when I saw the first list, my immediate thought was, okay, Collins makes sense. I'll talk about that in a moment because I know some people are interested in that, but Collins makes sense. I think Villari, I immediately was like, where's Dan Villari? Because he's been with the program the longest. Obviously, one of those guys that stayed from the Dino Babers era to the Fran Brown era. Now is even staying for another year of eligibility when some guys left for the NFL last year. I was shocked to not see him at first. And like you said, it gives you versatility, right? Jack Stonehouse, punter, guy that plays special teams. You don't often see a team bringing a punter, but he's another one that has been with the team for many years. I guess you could argue the same for the original cast of characters. Chestnut, McDonald have been around for a long time. We saw, obviously, Deuce transfer out to LSU, come back to the program. And Tank Wilson transferred in prior to last season. So we were interested in why this happened. Let's just say I reached out to a spokesperson for the university, and he said that there was, quote, no major reason for the switch and that there is no issue with any of the players, that are not going anymore. It's not, supposed to be a punishment. It is truly just Fran Brown originally had to submit this list to the ACC a couple of months ago. It was quite early on, and he decided to change his mind. The spokesperson did specify that he changed his mind over this past weekend. So whether that was just sort of a seniority thing for guys like Villari, Buxton, Stonehouse, whether that was performance-based on what he's seen in spring football and summer workouts, I'm not sure. I guess that was left up to interpretation, but they did specify it's not a bad thing. It was really just coach's decision.
I have a hard time believing that Fran would be the guy to be like, well, you didn't do great this practice.
I agree.
So, you're not going to come with me to represent this team. That doesn't really feel like in his character to do, and that's so much of what this team and what he's built is about, is character. So you have to believe that anyone that's a part of the program to begin with, he does feel like could represent. So it might just be, who knows, it could be a scheduling thing for some of these guys, and maybe they have something going on. Who knows?
Exactly. And as far as Collins goes, I don't know about you. Were you surprised with, of course, they added Notre Dame transfer quarterback Steve Angeli a couple months ago. Were you surprised to see Collins still on this list?
No, I don't think so. I think Collins has been a name we've been talking about for a long time, and I think Fran's been talking about him for a long time. I think he's high up on a lot of people's radar, and a lot of people are very interested to see what he'll come up with this season. I think we will see him. It's interesting because we have a couple quarterbacks on the roster now, so I feel like there is a lot of room for things to shake up over the course of, especially the early weeks of football season. But I think if Fran Brown wants him there, that tells you something.
Definitely. Collins, we actually found out yesterday. So Collins is a redshirt sophomore. The other three who will now be going are redshirt seniors. Like I said, that leadership have been around for a long time. Collins is actually only one of 8 underclassmen that will be showcased at the event at all. So
across the ACC.
Right, all 17 ACC teams are bringing their head coach, and they're bringing 4 players. Collins, one of just 8 of those players that is an underclassman. And I think, I have no official word on this, I don't know this to be true, but my take on Collins is that Fran Brown is a man of his word. He named Ricky Collins the starting quarterback in spring football. Of course, at that time, they didn't know some of the events that would transpire, right? Collins, gets hurt. He has that minor hand injury, wasn't available to play in the spring game. And then a few days after that, they brought in Steve Angeli, who is a guy that sat behind Riley Leonard at Notre Dame. As we've said on this podcast, Angeli's a guy that I don't really see wanting to go somewhere that he's not going to start. I think Brown was clear with both Collins and Angeli that there will be a quarterback battle again in this fall camp. But my take on him running with Collins here is that he's a man of his word. You named Ricky Collins the starting quarterback in the spring. That means it's Ricky Collins' job to lose, in a sense. It's going to be a battle, and it's going to be a fair fight because, like I said, I don't think Angeli is coming here if he feels like the door's shut to that role. But Fran Brown's not just going to strip Ricky Collins of that when that is something that he went on the record and said in April.
And I think because of that, it doesn't really feel like an event that you show up to without your QB1.
Exactly.
Right? So I think you have to kind of, one, stay true to that word, but also, like, even if there is a battle, like, put up a, I don't know, front, I guess, to kind of show, like, this is what we have going on, and it could change, but I'm here with my QB1 today.
I completely agree. And until it changes, right, in fall camp, who is he to take that away from Ricky Collins? So that's all I made of that. We are excited to kind of hear what they have to say. We have obviously had some stuff in the community getting to see Fran Brown this summer, but no real media availability with the players or him since the spring. So I know we're all looking forward to the ACC kickoff. Like I said, that is next Wednesday, July 23rd, and the ACC network will have full coverage, and we will surely be sitting here talking about it as well.
Yeah, we'll definitely have a lot on that. I can imagine that's like the first real concrete thing that's like indicating that football season is really around the corner. It's huge.
I know. And I think what I'm most interested in, you know, as that media event as a whole, the ACC has some teams, we were talking about this before we came on, that are really on the cusp of, you know, college football playoff berths. Clemson, Miami, always in that conversation. SMU last year. Syracuse has not been one of those teams prior to last season. They made a push at the end, obviously taking down Miami at home, knocking them out of the playoff in the ACC championship.
Remember that day?
That was a glorious day. Us running onto the field. It was really a great day.
Yep.
But Fran Brown put them in that national conversation again last season. Granted, that was with Kyle McCord, and Syracuse has lost a lot of players to the NFL draft. In terms of national returning production rankings, Syracuse is not high. They have a lot of guys coming in that are going to be starters now that either were not last year, that are new to the program. Obviously, it's going to be different under center. Kyle McCord, you have a guy out there who's like a pro-style passer that is going to be really, really hard to replace, whether it is Collins or Angeli. But all of that aside, I'm just interested to see, I guess, the attention that Fran Brown and Syracuse get at this event, because in comparison to where they were last year at this time, prior to all of that happening, prior to the 10-win season, I mean, Syracuse's stock has been elevated quite greatly since last July.
The conversation leading up to the seasons is entirely different.
Yes.
Entirely different. When you had Kyle McCord, when that was such a big deal that the guy from Ohio State decided, let's actually go to Central New York. Like, that put it on a platform, and then you have a season that lives up to it.
Right.
So you're coming off the season that lives up to it, but it's a very different storyline.
Yes.
So how much do you play off of, like, the really good season last year? Like, I wonder how many questions are asked about coming off last year. And Fran Brown, to me, doesn't feel like the guy that really wants to dwell.
Right.
I feel like he's not going to want to call back on a lot of, like, the glory days, if you will, of last season. I think he will be more interested in looking ahead. But looking ahead is a lot of unknown.
Definitely. And I think that, Syracuse, we've talked about it extensively, so we don't have to get too much into it. But not only did Fran Brown talk the talk last year, he also walked the walk in pretty much every game besides there was a few, Boston College, Pittsburgh, that we like back. But as a whole, for Syracuse football, he walked the walk last season pretty much as you can ask for in a head coach in his first season in that role. This year, it's a different story. We talked about the lack of returning production. Syracuse also has one of the hardest schedules in the entire country.
Yeah, we haven't even touched on that.
I haven't even touched on that. The hardest schedule in the ACC by far, but I would have to say it's a top 5 strength of schedule nationally. They play Clemson, they play Notre Dame. I mean, you just go down that list of those 12 games this year, and you would, I don't want to say be happy with, but you would consider it a successful season with 7 or 8 wins this year with just the strength of schedule. All the teams, Tennessee, that went to the college football playoff last year. So Fran Brown is aware of that. And I've seen some fan discourse online, okay, is 2025 a rebuilding year? Is he going to, is this going to be just sort of looked at as a stepping stone and our eyes are on 2026? I don't think that's how Fran Brown operates. I would be shocked if it was. We've already seen the ticking clock to Tennessee. That was up in like March or April in the Syracuse football facility.
Yep.
He focuses on winning games one game at a time. But we would be remiss to not, mention that this year there could be some growing pains.
Yeah, I would imagine that coming up in the next few weeks, we go through that process of breaking down each game, having predictions, and I think there's very much potential for you and Sam to be sitting here and saying, wow, like, this is the final record that I have looking at this season,
right,
like, as a whole, when we actually sit down and kind of break down what the tall task is ahead of them. Interesting to note, like, not only discourse online, but the beef between, like, Syracuse fan base and Tennessee has already kind of kicked up, which is so fun to see because that's not something you would have had 2 years ago. That's probably not something you would have had a year ago leading into the season. So fans definitely are feeling confident, which I think is half the battle.
I agree, and I think it'll be great to see whichever quarterback wins that battle, whether it's Collins or Angeli. I mean, welcome to the show. Literally, it is the opening game, August 30th. You're facing Tennessee, an SEC team that made the playoff last year at Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta. So we're excited for all of that, and we're excited to take you through fall camp as well as that gets going. We will have some more positional previews in the next few weeks, looking at kind of, position group by position group. And we will let you know all the observations and the things that we see at fall camp as well. So any other notes on Fran Brown or football?
I'm excited.
I'm excited.
That's all I got.
All right, over to Syracuse men's basketball. A quick note, SU will be playing in the Players Era Festival in Las Vegas. That is this November. It is Thanksgiving week. We knew that this was coming down the line. This was previously announced, and we have already talked about it. But we got some dates and some times for those games. So Syracuse will play Houston on Monday, November 24th at 6 o'clock, and they will face Kansas the following day, Tuesday, November 25th at 3:30 p.m. That's both Eastern time. Both of those times are in our time zone. And these games are being played at the MGM Grand arena that they have there, basically. It's at the MGM Grand Resort. They have this arena. It's about 17,000. It holds about 17,000. So they will play those 2 games, and then they will have a to-be-determined, not guaranteed time or opponent third game in the tournament. We've talked about it to say that opening up with Houston and Kansas is a ripper. You have last year's national runner-up, NCAA runner-up in Houston, and then Kansas, always a blue blood. We haven't gotten your thoughts on it. What are your thoughts on these games and these matchups?
You hear it, and I think the instinct is... But what I will say is I think there's a different feeling a little bit going into this year with some of the names you see joining the roster. And I think the nature of college basketball has obviously shifted in so many ways, but to schedule hard early is more often successful than it is not. You don't have much to lose, like, by doing this. Like, you are on a really national stage early, so you get seen by a lot of people and you're playing competitive teams. That doesn't hurt anyone ever. I mean, it might not feel good if you get beat by 30, but I think to be in that environment early for this team is important, because that it's gonna build them closer together to have that shared experience.
Yeah,
that's kind of how I feel.
Yeah, it's gonna build character if nothing else. I mean, if you want to be the best, you have to beat the best.
Right.
And I don't think they're there just yet. I don't think they'll be there in November, even if this does end up being a tournament team at the end of the year. I think you have 2 returning players, right? They happen to be your 2 top scorers, which is nice, in Donnie Freeman and JJ Starling. But you have a whole bunch of freshmen and a whole bunch of transfers. So this team is going to need to gel together. Will they be all the way there over Thanksgiving? I'm certainly not sure, but it'll be a good measuring stick nonetheless, like you mentioned. And I think that, if you're Adrian Autry, you have to look at this as an opportunity to get Syracuse back into at least being competitive in that sphere. No Syracuse basketball fan wants to go into games against Blue Bloods and feel like they don't belong there. And that's the feeling that we've had for the last 5, even getting closer to 10 years. So measuring yourself against programs the caliber of Houston and Kansas, I think will be helpful, even if it's not necessarily pretty.
I hope there's a patience from fans. I think obviously we all want them to go in and be competitive, even if it's a situation where it's a really close first half, where swapping buckets and defense looks sound. If you go into the second half and things kind of trail off, I think in a lot of ways that's a win too, right?
Right.
As long as you kind of establish some sort of ground on to be like, okay, well, we can build from this. Like, there is a lot to be taken away from an experience like this. And it'll be like a fun experience for these guys. Like, nobody wants to like play teams that are bad.
Yes.
Everybody wants to play teams that are good. So go play the good teams and have fun doing it.
Right. And it's worth noting this tournament is an NIL event. Each participating team will get $1 million at least just for participating. And the field is now 18 teams. They've been sort of building this up. Yeah. It's the second season. Next year, there'll be even more teams. Syracuse has already said that $1 million will be going towards Orange United, the NIL collective. So obviously going out there benefits the program, gets some fans out there on the West Coast. And in my eyes, Syracuse this year, the non-conference schedule prior to this does look a little bit different. The exhibition game, well, they haven't announced the exhibition games, but the opening non-conference games at the Dome, there's no Colgate this year and there's no Cornell. And those are 2 teams that fans, not only is it fun here in central New York, having both of those schools be an hour away, they've always been, all right, these are competitive teams, right? Colgate has gone to the tournament many of the last few years. These are good non-conference opponents to measure yourself against. Syracuse doesn't have that this year. They have Monmouth coming in. They have Mercyhurst was announced today. And in Vegas, prior to the Players Era Festival, they will also play St. Joe's. So
that one's exciting.
That one is exciting, and I'm excited to see that in Vegas.
I love a Big East route.
I know, yes, me as well. So that'll all be really exciting. But like I said, some of the non-conference stuff at the Dome, I don't think will be as good of a measuring mark for them as years past.
It's interesting because I think that's a tradition in a lot of ways for Syracuse,
right?
But it's also Jim Boeheim was a tradition for Syracuse.
Right.
Jim Boeheim did that, so I don't necessarily mind. I don't know how involved, obviously, Autry is in making these decisions as to who's coming into the Loud House to play, but I don't mind him trying something new either.
Yeah,
I think he has all the reason to do that, and we'll see what happens.
Looking forward to it. So that is the schedule for the Players Era Festival, and then sort of transitioning into SU men's basketball. Beyond that, Rachel and I were lucky enough to attend quite the event last week. Syracuse men's basketball held an NIL, I don't even know what to call it, event. It was like a summer, they called it the Summer Slam.
It was a hoorah.
It was a hoorah. It was 300 people. It was sold out to the public. It originated actually at 100 people. It was then expanded to 300. There was chock full of people in Skinny Atlas at a private residence of someone who, donates and contributes to NIL. And this was our first chance to really, I guess, not only interview and sort of meet and interact with Kyan Anthony and Sadiq White, it was our first chance to really see this team sort of bonding and turning into what will be a team in the fall. They did a slam dunk contest. There was a 3-point shooting contest. There were food trucks. It was just really the whole thing.
It was the whole nine.
The whole nine. So what were your observations from that event?
So I was there on a news angle.
Yes.
So I went for my story for the day. I did live hits in the earlies. So I think the nature of the beast for us is we can go into really cool places and not fully appreciate the scope of how cool something is.
Right.
Because we're like, oh, I have to be live in 5 minutes and like I have to do this before that.
Yeah. Always stressed about making TV.
Always stressed about making
That
TV.
has to also happen.
Right. But I did some of my live hits right outside the basketball court that they had set up. And that setup, first of all, was pretty cool. They had like projectors that were kind of showing like the speakers that were on the court, and you were getting like play-by-play, and there was light fixtures, and it felt like a mini version of like a massive like arena.
Right.
Like, truly. But for one of my live hits, I was set up right outside of that. And then like 3 minutes before I was supposed to go live, who walks up but the entire team, right? So like,
hey guys.
So all of a sudden I'm standing there, I'm like,
hi.
oh, hi. Oh,
Yeah.
hi, Anthony.
Hey.
What's up? Like,
Yeah.
So I briefly chatted to him. I was like, oh, is it like you guys just got here? Like, is this the first time you're seeing the court?
Yeah.
He was like, yep. Kept it short and sweet, you know. But I was like, do you think that's enough room for you to operate? Like, what do you think? Are you feeling excited? He was like, oh yeah. I was like, okay, great. During one of those live hits, I also had the pleasure of being joined by Otto the Orange. I don't know if you saw that.
I did see that. Fantastic. Otto crashing a live shot is just great content.
Yeah, and I heard my anchor say, oh, Otto's behind you, but I kind of assumed he was off in the distance.
Right.
You know, like doing that little spin thing, meeting some fans.
The spin thing's the best.
No, he was just...
Otto saw his moment to be on TV. Time to shine.
He took it. But in terms of the actual basketball and the crowd support, it really felt like a moment for Syracuse basketball. I think NIL has been around now. Like, these aren't new conversations that we're having regarding what it's done to change basketball and college sports in general. But I think it's fair to say that maybe Syracuse has been behind the ball a little bit on a lot of it. This felt like a really big step in just kind of catching up and saying, hey, like, we're gonna do this right.
Right.
What do you think?
I completely agree. It was great to see. To me, when I walked into this, it felt like a Syracuse football event that we've gotten accustomed to in the last under 2 years under Fran Brown, right? It felt like I was at something for football. And I think that's only a positive thing to feel that for the basketball team. Adrian Autry, it's no secret that after the last 2 years, he has to galvanize this community somehow. Obviously, a top 10 recruiting class that includes Kyan Anthony, Sadiq White, Luke Fennell from Australia is going to help that, but at the same time, you have to show that you're making your efforts as well to raise money for the program and to drive up what you are not only worth in NIL, but what you can pay players, what you can offer players when they come here. So it really was a great thing to see the community sort of rallying around them like that. And as far as the basketball, we did not see JJ Starling and Donnie Freeman were not out there.
No.
Although Donnie did tell me, great thing to hear, that he's fully healthy after his injury last season, fully healthy, ready to go. And by the way, that he never considered transferring out of Syracuse after last season, which was a big rumor that Donnie was going to go somewhere else. That was one of the biggest moments of the offseason, really, for Syracuse, was when SU men's basketball posted that graphic that Donnie and JJ were both coming back. I think it was late March, early April. He said he never considered going anywhere else because he wanted to finish what he started here at SU. That was great to hear. Great to hear that he's fully healthy. Again, we didn't see Donnie or JJ. We saw Kyan, and Sadiq was like really trying to win the dunk contest. He was doing big things. We saw some like double, like Kyan would like put it up for him and Sadiq would go. So that was all fun to see, right? Because these are guys that while we've heard so much about them, we quite literally have never seen them play a game.
And it seemed like they were having fun with each other,
yes.
right? That's such a huge part, and we've talked about what the importance of them blending together through this season is, because there is so many kind of new faces in that locker room. But like they were all so happy for each other when something went right, and then even when it wasn't going great, like it was the same energy. So that was really nice to see too.
Jim Boeheim was a judge for the dunk contest. He was, I mean, one of my favorite personal moments of the night was just sitting there watching Jim Boeheim be like 8, 7. He was really not that harsh of a critic. Like he liked what was going on.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I think he likes Syracuse. You know what I mean? I think he's gonna root for his guys, but. Yeah, he seemed to sitting next to some legends in Spud Webb and Dee Brown, both dunk champions themselves. I think you have to think that was a pretty cool experience, not only for everyone in attendance, but for guys like him too.
Definitely.
To kind of see what the program that he's put so much into over the course of his life is kind of entering into now. Like you have to think he walked away from that feeling pretty good about it too.
Absolutely. And it was cool to attend, not just for us, because this was something that we were not actually sure if it was going to be sort of open to media,
us,
open to us. We were there alongside Mike Waters from Syracuse.com. But going to things like this also sort of humanize the people that you cover and that you critique and that fans are so quick to be harsh on, because like seeing Adrian Autry with his daughter Nina, who's attending Syracuse for women's lacrosse next season, seeing him up there with his wife, thank the owners of this house and thank everybody that poured into this. I think it just humanizes the whole situation a little bit, right? We heard from Adrian Autry last season. He told one of our anchors, Michael Benny, on CBS 5 that he is just as much a part of this community as he is a leader and a figure in it, because he has now chosen to raise his family here, live essentially his whole life here since he was a player here. So he hears the criticism. He hears, he knows that Syracuse men's basketball not being what it was in the past is a big blow to this community. And so this is a long-winded way of saying, like, he is a part of this community. I think to go to something like this and see him humanized in that way and to feel it and to feel how much he wants this program to succeed and turn a corner this year was really refreshing.
And that was such a theme of the night, right? The community aspect of it. But not only that, but like Syracuse basketball is in so many ways family.
Yeah.
And not only like within the locker room and within the team, but anyone who grew up in this community as a sports fan, I guarantee you some of their favorite memories happened watching Syracuse men's basketball. Like that,
definitely.
Like that is such a draw for so many people. And to see Jim Boeheim, Julie Boeheim, Jimmy Boeheim, the three of them were all there. Like that's kind of just symbolizes what a lot of people who grew up in this community feel. I grew up going to the Dome with my dad. I grew up going to the Dome with my grandpa. I remember like my season tickets numbers like they're nothing in the back of my head. So I think to hear that and see that in such an authentic way, which you don't get through a broadcast or even in a media availability, was a really special opportunity.
I agree. And it's, of course, not an excuse. There's still a standard to meet, and everybody knows that. But it's more saying, like, Adrian Autry actually might be the most aware person. He knows what's at stake this season and beyond. And I think he knows how important and how vital, like you said, Syracuse men's basketball and the success of it is to this community. Unless you have any closing thoughts, I think that's it for this week. We will touch base with you guys next week, like I said, ahead of ACC Kickoff. We have a very exciting guest coming on, not next week, but the week after. Former SU linebacker Dan Conley is joining us. We had a really fantastic conversation with him, and we're excited to put that out for you guys. Rachel, any closing thoughts?
Nope. Just there's a lot to be excited about.
Lots to be excited about in SU Athletics. Thank you guys so much for joining us. We will see you right back here next week. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe.